Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, or good night. I do not know where you are dialing in from, but I do hope it's from all over the world, just as we had over the last few days participants from all over the world here at the ETH Global and Zora hackathon, Metabolism hackathon. My name is Michail. Based in Berlin, I am part of the Zora team and being also one of the co-organizers of the hackathon. And the last few days have been incredibly exciting for us. I'm really not exaggerating. I really mean it that the things that have been happening over the last few days were absolutely unbelievable. And I want any of you who might have participated as a builder, as a designer, as an artist, or just as an audience member to thank you for your time, for your work, for your giga brain, galaxy brain even ideas, and all the beautiful things that you have built. And I'm quite excited also to see what the jury has picked from, I think, nearly 100 submissions that we got on Sunday. For the hackathon. The jury was deliberating yesterday. I've heard it was a very thorough and tough process. They were fighting over the greatest ideas, and the prizes will be announced tomorrow. So I hope that you, of all people, and your team have won. So we have also today a wonderful program for you, a digital summit that will explore a few ideas that I think, and all of us think, especially, here at Zora, we think are very worth and important to pay attention to when we think about Web3 as an ecosystem, when we think about Web3 as a social space, when we think about Web3 as a technological space, or as I like to call it, as a techno-social space, which combines all these wonderful things into one ever-growing, wonderful, rhizomatic network of ideas, technologies, communities, and all the wonderful people embedded within. And when we talk about, Web3, very often, and especially also within the context of a hackathon, very often focus on the technology. So we focus on the code, we focus on the solutions, and very often on very utilitarian, like somewhat technocratic aspects of these technologies. But ultimately, these technologies are way more. They do manifest also social political realities. They are not just code, within stories are embedded, within that whole identities are embedded, amplified, and hopefully also empowered. And some of these things we wanted to explore now that you've had all the workshops, you had all the intros, you had all the technological deep dives, you came out with more wisdom than ever about what it is that you're trying to build. But today we will dive into the more social aspects of it. Not just, we'll also have a couple of technological things. Let me have a look. By the way, I do this for the very first time, so if this is a little bit rough around the edges, for example, this slide should have been shown already a few minutes ago, but here is me 2 years ago. And by the way, Opium Hum, that's like how you find me on all the social media channels. Opium Hum is, by the way, my DJ name. So if you ever go into a club, you see Opium Hum, that's me. So let's go to today's schedule. So what are we actually, exploring today if we talk about, all of these ideas that I kind of try to introduce to you? So one of the things that we really would like to pay attention to is DAOs. So the idea of a DAO has kind of changed over the last 18 months to 2 years, which used to be really technocratic, kind of fully on-chain tools of governance, those tokenomics, has also a little bit changed into a cultural signifier of sorts. So Web3 native communities that want to signal that they are using Web3 technologies, they call themselves often a DAO, even though sometimes the technological aspect of a DAO are not quite there yet or might not be the priority. But nonetheless, it's a really important category. And one thing that we've seen is a lot of the projects that we've seen over the last 18 months are cooperatives. They are vehicles for co-production. And this is something we would want to dive into with a couple of participants that are really native to Web3, but also come from the culture industries, and in particular, Andrea Magdalena from She Said So, which is a group of women and femme and queer people in the media and art industries. And what I'm particularly excited about, Elijah, who is an absolute legend of UK grime and bass music and the music industry, heavyweight in UK. And he will be joining us as well, on top of Sirsu, who all of you probably know, and Izzy from Refraction DAO. And after that, we are going to talk a little bit about how these technologies, Web3 technologies in particular, can be used for agency, how to manifest agency, what agency really means, especially within the context of politicized bodies. So when we talk about, building technology that contains equity, the question is, what kind of equity and for whom? And I do think that in particular, trans and queer communities that very often are not at the center of when such technologies are built, have a unique opportunity using these technologies for not only empowerment, but also for building very, very resilient ecosystems. And this is going to be a panel that is co-presented by our friends from Mutual Love, a wonderful group of people that you should most certainly follow. Like everyone on these panels, please, I find them all incredibly inspiring, and so will you. Follow them, and a whole new world will open for you. A whole idea space. Let's see. Oh yes, Harm van den Dorpel, legendary. Like, this is an artist who was making NFTs because NFTs, before NFTs were even invented. That is how long he's been doing Web3 and blockchain-based art. One of the very first artists to ever do an artwork on chain, and he will deep dive into his creative process. And wrapping things quickly up, we also will look into the emerging ecosystems of Web3 music. So Web3 music is not just minting songs as one-on-one NFTs, but there are already whole economies and ecologies of Web3 native ecosystems emerging, from on-chain digital audio workstations down to what does that actually mean, to bring music on chain. And one aspect that scholars and scientists and also builders have been arguing about a lot is metadata standards. And even if it sounds boring to some of you, it's incredibly important because it enables so much. And then something that I'm particularly excited about is Imane Bello will join us from France. She is a lawyer that is particularly focused on AI and innovation law. And given the fact that the last few weeks were all dominated by conversations around artificial intelligence, whether it's art, whether it's not art, she will deep dive with us into the ethical implications of these new emerging technologies, and also the economies that will result from it. So this is what we have for now. I'm going to kick it off